Ladies and gents, welcome. It's a privilege for me once again to host, as far as today is concerned, our 32nd Free Friday Lunch webinar. It's great to have you, and I really appreciate you supporting our webinars, and in the hope that it does make a difference and it adds value to your lives. And I'm just admitting as we speak. Right. Today we're talking about survival skills in an upside down world. And just a reminder for those of you who have missed previous editions of the Free Friday Lunch webinars, if you go to soldati.com, our website, and click on Resources Insights, you'll be able to see all the 31 previous webinars, copies thereof, and much more. And by the end of next week, this webinar that we're actually doing today will then also be loaded. Right, so today I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm not going to beat about the bush and talk about a lot of intro stuff. I want to get to it and just ask you and invite you, in fact, to please reflect. Take this time to ask yourself, how am I doing in relation to the content or the content that I'm sharing with you? Hold up the proverbial mirror and ask yourself, is there something more I can do? And identify, if I may, areas specifically that I'm going to share with you where you feel you can do more to improve as a person, not only for your sake, but also for the sake of the people around you. Here's another invitation to please pay it forward. I might share with you stuff that you recognize in others who are finding that aspect of trying to deal with life difficult. And you might be able to share with them rather some thoughts in terms of what I'm sharing with you. So please pay it forward. I want to pause for a second and hope I'm not getting emotional. I want to talk just briefly about the master of paying it forward. And a lot of you on this webinar know him or knew him very well. Mark Peters, who was an amazing guy, and he's still an amazing guy because his legacy lives on. He unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago. He lost his battle with cancer. And today's session really is dedicated to Mark Peters, an amazing guy, somebody that I called a friend, but also called him, I don't call many people my brother, but he was my brother and he was also my mentor. And to give you an idea, I have 1,000 LinkedIn contacts. He had 17,000. So if I can just one day at the end of my life, before exchanging this one for the one year after, touch half of the amount of lives that Mark has touched, I'll be very, very thankful. But the reality is Mark's legacy lives on. And if it wasn't for Mark assisting me, guiding me as my mentor from 5 years ago up to his passing a fortnight ago, I would not probably have been able to do what I'm doing in the way that I'm doing it. So Mark, thank you very much. And this session today is dedicated to you. So Mark had a couple of great sayings. One of them was, he always used to ask me and ask me to reflect upon the question, what is the smart play, Hekkie? And I think as far as today's discussion is concerned, ladies and gents, the smart play would be to take the things that I share with you seriously and to actually practice it in your own lives, and again, see if you can pay it forward to other people. So if I look at AI overview, it tells me that, and if I type in today's topic into the search line, it says, in an upside down or challenging world, survival skills involve both practical physical techniques and crucial soft skills for resilience. Now, today I'm not going to share with you how to catch a rabbit or how to make fire as far as the first part's concerned. But what I want to focus on are the crucial soft skills from own experience. And I know there are many more, and you'll be able to share many more as well, that we need to be resilient as far as today's very volatile, uncertain world is concerned. I want to share with you 10 skills that works for me in the hope that it will also assist you to be able to cope with life just much better. And I want to just mention that the topics that I want to share with you are very much intertwined. Take note of that. Interlinked, which is good in a sense because it means that if I pull the one lever, i.e., I become successful in mastering the one skill, it will automatically have a positive effect in allowing me to pull down the proverbial mirror, or lever rather, down of, or halfway down at least, of a couple of others. So let's just get into the crux of today. What is a skill? Well, the Oxford Online Dictionary tells us that a skill is simply our ability to do something well. Why? Well, it's simple. Because it will allow us to do what Steve Maraboli basically warns us about. When he says life doesn't get easier or more forgiving, we need to get stronger and more resilient. So, skill number one is also, if I grab a copy of my book, chapter one of my book on self leadership, it is taking charge. If I type into perplexity the meaning of taking charge, it tells us the phrase taking charge means to assume control, command, or responsibility for something. In this case, our lives. In this case, our emotional wellness. It involves accepting responsibility and having authority because you are in control, much more than you would like to admit, maybe, or management over a task, situation, or group. It often implies exhibiting qualities of leadership, initiative, and being forceful or authoritative in managing and directing activities. I've got a client that's about an hour's drive from Joburg, and this morning I was listening to Steve Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast, and the person that he interviewed said the following, and it resonated very much with me, also in the context of our discussion today, or this webinar topic. He said, we need to be very mindful of the fact that we are the software engineers that writes the code for our own lives. And that talks to the fact that we need to take charge. Yes, you might say to me, Hekkie, God is overall in charge. Absolutely agreed, granted. But within that picture, there is definitely a portion that we should attribute to the fact that we've been given a brain and a mind and a soul and a body to actively take charge to facilitate positive change. Getting back to the point, taking charge, skill number one. I more and more come to the realization that when I do coaching sessions also with leaders, that people don't take charge enough. They don't realize to what extent they can take charge. And to me, one of the acid tests of taking charge is simply to ask yourself, to ask myself, what is my locus of control? Is your locus of control internal or external? If your locus of control is external, it means that you blame other people or circumstances for where you find yourself in life, as opposed to taking charge and saying to yourself, I'm taking responsibility for where I am, and I'm going to make it differently, better, and change my circumstances. Skill number two, deal with your issues. So, if we take charge, we deal with our issues. This is a quote that I put out on social media a while ago. You either deal with an issue, or the issue will eventually deal with you. Here's the reality. Our issues don't magically disappear. So the sooner we can deal with them effectively, the less anxious we'll be, the less nervous we'll get. Skill number three, stop comparing yourself. And again, it links back, talking about being interlinked to the first skill of taking charge. Stop comparing yourself to anybody. Live your own life, nobody else's. Steve Jobs said, your time is limited, so don't waste it somebody else's life. Don't waste it living rather somebody else's life. Love this quote from Mark Twain. Comparison is the death of joy. One of my best friends always says, the only comparison you should ever make is to the best version of you. Nobody else. And I think there's a lot of truth and wisdom in that. Skill number four, plan for success. One of the guys that I worked for many moons ago, around the year 2000 at Nampak Tissue back in the day, Ken, you would remember Nampak Tissue, said success without planning is luck. A guy called Mike Dennis. You don't get successful just by chance. you have to plan to become successful. And what's a good place to start is to look at the wheel of life and to basically ask yourself, in terms of your future life, because that's all we can control, right? What are the areas that's important to you? What are the areas in which you would like to achieve success? And then to write down the goals that you've got for each one of those areas. And not only write it down, but to live it. Make that documented goal document a living document. Adjust it, reflect upon it, and make it happen. Skill number 5, staying focused. There's a lovely story of Bill Gates' mom, who through a mutual lady friend invited Warren Buffett over the 4th of July holidays in the States to join them at their holiday home. And Bill Gates' mom that evening asked all the people around the dinner table to write down one word that they can attribute to their success. And she collected all the pieces of paper, and it was not coincidental that Bill Gates' answer was exactly the same as Warren Buffett's answer. And the one word was focus. Focus. Don't get distracted. Focus on one thing at a time if you possibly can. If you say to me, but Hekkie, I can't get this right, I'm battling with it. Well, a good place maybe to start is to set yourself personal boundaries. I've got a book that I read that's called The Time Management Solution by a guy called Damon Zahariades. Sorry, difficult surname to pronounce. Part of in the book, he talks about time blocks. If we want to get the job done and don't want to allow ourselves to get distracted, focus by switching off your phone, by closing your emails, by telling the people around you need to do a very important task, for example, or very, very important personal thing for the next hour or two. My wife bought me this book about 10 years ago, and I only read it recently, and I finished it last week on mindfulness. Beautiful way to get yourself to adopt the practice of focusing more, mindfulness meditation. And as the last resort, if you have to go into meds because you have adult ADHD, and I'll admit it, I've got a form of that. I'm not on meds, but as a last resort, if you have to do it, why not? If you can't do the aforementioned stuff, the stuff that I've touched on as examples, to get it under control. Skill number 6, stay motivated. There's a number of topics, ladies and gents, in this presentation that I focused on before that you might, if you click on that link I've mentioned at the beginning, you might be able to go there and look at those webinars that specifically focused on things like motivation. It's important, not only for our sake to keep us motivated, but also we need to see what we can do to motivate others. And there's an important reminder that we are all unique. What motivates you does not necessarily motivate me. So the key, I believe, is to move our focus from typically being more extrinsically motivated by money and leave and bonuses and other perks to also make sure that we're intrinsically motivated. To see which examples you can generate in your life to also, as far as your career is concerned, ensure enjoyment, find purpose in what you do. Ask yourself, how can I grow in my career, in my job? How can I stay curious, passionate? How can I express myself? And ultimately, how can we have fun? Not only as individuals where we work, but also as teams. Because those things motivate us intrinsically and makes us want to go to work as opposed to have to go to work. And if you're missing motivation, do yourself a favor, just reflect a bit on your life and ask yourself and show yourself where you've come from. Which things you have overcome as challenges. What achievements do you have and that you could look back upon with a smile on your dial? And that will certainly put a spring in your step and hopefully in itself motivate you. Skill number 7 is the very important topic of looking after our bodies, minds, and souls. You might recall that one of the previous Free Friday Lunch webinars, I showed you a video of Warren Buffett at his alma mater university talking to a bunch of students, where he basically said this: if I give you one car till the end of your life, how would you look after it? You would look after it like no tomorrow. You will make sure if it's got the smallest scratch, you fix it. And the comparison he makes is, but then why don't you also look in the same way after your body, your mind, your soul? Because you only have one. I get guys, and I've met guys, and I've also been guilty of this before, that said or says, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'm a machine. Well, then it makes me think, how sustainable is that? Which is basically a topic, by the way, the topic of our next month's Free Friday Lunch webinar. How sustainable is it if we think we are superhuman? It's not, because eventually it will come and will pop up and will bite you. And in saying that, I want to ask you and me, what are you doing to charge your life batteries, as I refer to it, because it's important. I read. I spend time in the African bush, spend time with my family. In summer, I swim, also do mile events, and in winter, I run. But the point is, we can't do that now and again. We need to do it frequently. And when life gets hard, please do yourself a favor. Be kind to yourself and take your foot off the gas. But it should be more than that. We should take the calendar of the year and plan ahead. When am I going to take a break? It doesn't need to cost money. When am I going to do things that stimulates me, that de-stresses me, that allows me to rest and recuperate? And don't be so hard on yourself. Be your own best friend. A couple of weeks ago, I had lunch, well, probably a month ago, I had lunch with Rene, who I went to the army with in 1991. And he asked me, okay, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing fine. I'm happy, but I'm not where I want to be as far as my business is concerned. I would have liked to have grown it more, looking to the future. And then he told me something very profound. He said, but hang on, God only gives you today. Mark would tell me, Mark Peters, to whom I'm dedicated to this session, would tell you and me, we only have today. What are we doing with today? Yes, we have to plan. Obviously, we have to have ambitions. Also take charge from that point of view. But what are we doing today to make the best out of today? And to enjoy today. And appreciate today, the here and the now. Because in that, I don't know about you, but in that thought, I find a lot of peace. Love this quote from Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher. He said, if you're depressed, you are typically living in the past. If you are anxious, you're typically living in the future. But if you are at peace, you're typically living in the present. Skill number 8, invest in relationships. AI overview tells us that investing in relationship means consciously, not by chance, not somewhere, consciously contributing your time, your energy, your emotions to build stronger connections, trust, and mutual support, ultimately improving your mental and emotional well-being. You see, relationships, ladies and gents, are the super glue of life. It keeps everything together. And if you look at the normal relationship tree, as I define it, as I came to realize in my life, I believe God should be first, because ultimately He created us. But you might be part of the 15% of people worldwide that are agnostic or atheists, and that's your choice. But then that part doesn't matter to you. But the rest of the past matters to all of us. On a human level, the first person you need to be befriending and you should have a good relationship with, and you should look after is yourself. Because you and I can't pour from an empty cup. And then I would submit it should be your spouse or your life partner, if you have one. And then the children follow. And please don't get those two turned around. Your spouse or life partner and children turned around in terms of your priorities around relationships. Because then marriages fall apart. Ask me. I've been there. And then after that comes family, friends and colleagues. Skill number 9 is the courage to be vulnerable. Another Free Friday Lunch webinar topic we had many moons ago. Vulnerability being the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. And we are focusing in this context on the power of being vulnerably psychologically. emotionally. The point is, you're not alone. You should not have to carry the burdens of life on your own. We should be there for each other. And I know it might sound corny, but I mean this. If you say to me, but, Hekkie, I'm at the end of the road, I'm at a T junction, I can't carry on. If nobody wants to talk to you, or if you've got nobody to talk to, please WhatsApp me. I'll chat to you. We can meet for a cup of coffee. Brenner Brown, who's the expert on vulnerability in the world, professor at American University. Brenner says vulnerability is not a weakness, it's our greatest measure of courage. The last skill, ladies and gents, is to be consistent. When Prudential was still around before they became M&G Investments, their tagline was, you remember, you recall, consistency is the only currency that matters. You see, we all can succeed in all the things that I shared with you today and more, as far as survival skills are concerned. We all can succeed sometimes. But the trick is to convert that and ensuring that we succeed consistently. Anything is possible. I repeat, anything is possible if you have the motivation, if you want to, if you've got enough of a motivation to do anything. In this case, take the survival skills that I'm sharing with you seriously to do consistently. Why? Because if I have the motivation, from that flows choice. Then I'll make the choice to actually take each one of these survival skills seriously. And then hopefully from there will flow discipline to ensure consistency of that. And anything is possible also if you take charge. And now we've come full circle, getting back to skill number 1. Confucius said, life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. We ponder on that for a while, we'll realize, but hang on, it's not that difficult. We can do this. Look after yourself, ladies and gents. You're precious, also to others. Whatever it takes, look after yourself now more than ever, because life is not getting easier and more forgiving. Like Steve Maraboli said, we need to get stronger and more resilient. That's the end. I want to thank you for your attendance. Please join us end of next month for the important topic of sustainability, also in relation to leadership. There are my details if you want to contact me.